And now what I'd like to do is introduce our VA expert guest speaker of the night. And to do that, permit me to read Charlotte's bio so you can see and understand why she's here this evening talking to us about her journey, her experience, and there'll be lots and lots of takeaways in that for us. So let me read. Charlotte Edwards is the leading voice of female property developers in the UK, an accidental developer turning tragedy into triumph. She rebuilt a family house building business with no experience or knowledge. Charlotte's story is both empowering and inspirational, more so as she has achieved it alongside being a single mum during COVID. Through Instagram, her handle is @accidentalfemaledeveloper. She aims to encourage women to join her in an industry currently dominated by men, with her down-to-earth, practical look at life in property. Charlotte regularly tours the UK as a speaker, giving inspirational and insightful accounts of life as a woman in property. From my first time meeting Charlotte online, she came across very, very vibrant, very professional, very open and willing to share her journey as a property developer. So I'm really excited and pleased to hand over to Charlotte. We're all dying to hear how she built a £1.5 million property portfolio in less than a year. So ladies and gentlemen, let me now hand over to our guest expert of the night, Charlotte Edwards.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. What I'm gonna do is share my screen. So if you could just let me know when you can see it on your screen. Okay, do you see my slide? Yeah, brilliant. Okay, cool. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the market update. There's actually quite a lot to market update on this week, isn't there? So it was a useful one. So I am a property developer. Specifically, I do ground up new build development. So literally greenfield, bricks, mortar, build the house, sell it, or keep it and rent it, and then move on to the next. I'm also, so because I do that, I'm also a landlord, but I also do other strategies to become a landlord. I buy, refurbish, refinance. I do straightforward buy-to-lets. Just bought my first HMO. What else do I do? I've dabbled in serviced accommodation, but I don't like that much. So yeah, I've tried it all, and I feel like I've settled now, and I will go into more detail about how I got there. I'm going to be really honest with you, sharing numbers. And then obviously we'll take some questions at the end. Okay, let's dive in. Oh, sorry guys, forgot to add that bit on the screen. I am an advocate for women in construction and SME developers. So I'm part of a all-party parliamentary group where we encourage more women into construction. And then I'm also a spokesperson for small to medium-sized developers in the UK as well. So I have completed £10 million worth of new build projects with literally zero experience. I could not even get into construction college because I had no experience. So I learned the hard way. I learned with some steel toe cap boots, hard hat, and just got stuck in. But I'll get into that more detail. So completely self-taught. I acquired 10 properties in 10 months to gather a buy-to-let portfolio. Again, I'll go into more detail in that. So that was a £1.5 million portfolio built in 10 months during COVID as well, by the way. So amongst a very small number of geeks, I'm well known. I occasionally get recognized in things like service stations, random bars in different parts of the world where people will go, oh, hey, I follow you on Instagram, or I saw you in that magazine. So well known amongst a very small number of geeks on the internet for what I do in property. And my main outlet is Instagram. So I do. So I was recently on a TV program on Channel 5 as well, but I'm not going to say what that is. Because I'm still cringing from that, but it went out last weekend, and I'm getting quite a few messages from people who've seen that, and that's all just come off the back of me sharing my journey in property on social media. What I'm going to concentrate on today is talk to you about the challenges and the lessons that I've learnt on taking on a 26 unit development site as my very first project. So guys, I'm going to take you back now to 2019. I was 36 years old. I was single mum, 2 kids. And I was a marketing consultant very happily. So I had a wonderful job and I loved what I did. And I had no ambition or intention whatsoever to go into property. None. It just seemed like hard work, stressful. And also like I just thought it was for rich people. So I just, I'm a single mum here. There's no way that I can see myself being a property investor. So what happened and what thrust me into that world was my dad and my brother both passed away towards the end of 2019 very suddenly from cancer. And that left me with a decision to make as to whether I was going to take on a construction site that they'd actually both bought together to develop 26 houses. Now, they had taken out a 7-figure bank loan to buy that. So it wasn't as if they sort of just bought it and it was there ready to go. It was it was under bank debt. So I had to make the decision whether I wanted to take that on or just basically have it written off and hand the keys back to the site. Now, out of grief or like madness or whatever, I don't know. Everybody told me, just don't do it, Charlotte, don't do it. But I did it and I decided, okay, how hard can this be? I'm gonna give this a go. I'm gonna try and see if I can build the houses on this site, sell them out, pay back the bank, and kind of maybe carve a new career for myself. Who knows? I think maybe I'd done it a bit out of loyalty to my family, but it felt like the right thing to do. So I met with the bank manager. I said, "Don't worry, I've got this. I know exactly what I'm doing." And there we go. This is pretty much this was a few weeks into the site. This is what it looked like. Not a lot there, bit of rubbish around, a few curbs in for the entrance. And that was it. That was what I had to go on. I had all the staff left. There was no staff, didn't have any construction workers there. So I had to find all those. That was my first job. The only thing I had to get started with was a mobile phone. My dad's old mobile phone. And luckily, I don't know if you do this on your phone, but he'd saved like Dave, the painter, or like Bill, the brickie. So he'd saved the number with like their job title on the end. So I was able to just go through and try and ring people based on what he'd saved them as. And try and form some sort of plan to get on with this. Now, my first day on site, these official looking people rocked up from HSE, Health and Safety Executive. I don't know if you know about them. They've got more powers than the police. They walk straight on site, shut it down. Where's your PPE? Where's your site facilities? Where's your paperwork? I don't even know what they're talking about. So that was a really harsh like baptism of fire basically to get my health and safety in order. First thing I did was book myself into a week-long health and safety course. I became like a fully qualified health and safety site management health and safety course. So got my certificates for that. So that got that straightened out. Now, I had massive gaps in my knowledge to get started in this. So bearing in mind, I've got no income at this point either, right? So I'm living on credit cards here, living very frugally, but it's COVID, so we can't go out anyway. So what else am I going to do? So I couldn't find any PPE equipment to fit me. So I had to wait, took 2 weeks for me to order just some steel toe cap boots in a women's size 5 to actually arrive at the house so that I could legally be on the site. Big issues with women in construction, and that's why I'm an advocate for them now to try and improve things. So I had big knowledge gaps in construction, in health and safety, in finance. I didn't know how much it cost to build a house, didn't know how much bricks cost, didn't know how much anything cost. And I didn't have any industry experience. I literally had nothing. So the way that I would get through this is I would obviously we've got YouTube, we got Google. Didn't even have Chat GPT in 2019, 2020. So I was using anyone I could think of in my network, no matter how random they might know something about this thing. And actually what I found was a lot of people were really willing to help, and wanted to help. So I found some really good suppliers, really good local builders merchants who were able to talk me through the stages, what materials I needed at those stages. They were able to put me in touch with construction workers who would be able to help at the stages when they were needed. I was watching YouTube every night. I was listening to podcasts. I was reading books. I was trying to teach myself everything I could, like going back to school, learning about a completely different foreign industry to me. So finance was and continues to be probably the most tricky thing that we all face in trying to either start or grow our property businesses. And for me, it was a case of making friends with the bank manager, because I needed him to back me and I needed additional funding to actually be able to do the project. So that continues to be a smart move for me, because now I've got funding available to me today because of those relationships I made back then, and being able to work hard enough without taking any money myself to be able to pay back those loans, and be able to get to the point where I am today. So I don't know how many of you have got any sort of construction industry experience, but it is a strange industry, especially when you've come out of an office environment where everything's very ordered and corporate, and we email each other and we set calendar appointments. You know, nothing like that on a construction site. So you've got a completely different way of working, right? So I might, you know, I remember turning up in my little blazer and my suit and going, okay, guys, we'll swap emails? Do you do Zoom? How do we communicate? And they're like, some of them, if you're lucky, they've got a phone. If you're lucky, they might respond to a text message. They probably haven't got an email address. And when they give you their invoice, it's written on the back of an envelope. Do you know what I mean? Like just handwritten, and they hand it to you. There was no like, not a completely different culture for me, completely different culture shock. The way that communication was done, it was very much verbal, face to face, rather than when you're in a corporate environment, right? You're emailing, maybe you're part of a Slack group, or everything's digital. It's like you're going back in time here, and everything is face to face and everything is verbal, and business is done on a handshake almost. So completely different culture. Pretty lonely as well. I think most people who work in property can understand that it can be quite a lonely place to be, especially when you're making decisions yourself, you're an investor. It's just getting used to not having colleagues anymore, not having a team, right? You're on your own, you're making decisions on your own, and you can ask people's opinion, but really that kind of hangs on your head, and those decisions that you make. It's not a committee anymore, it's you making the decisions. And different management styles as well, managing a group of builders versus managing a group of office workers, like completely different. Completely different, even down to the language that gets used. I swear so much now where I never used to, because what I realized is that, and I won't swear on here because I know that Nessa wants to put it on YouTube afterwards, but you've got to put a few F's into your sentences, get things done. That's what I realized. So again, different. So I would say like building is a science, but dealing with trades is an art. And thankfully it's an art I no longer have to do. I've now got site managers that do that for me. But at the time, I was site managing, right? I was literally on site, ordering materials, getting them delivered, helping unload them, sweeping the floors, making sure everything was done, project managing. I was doing all the jobs. I was doing sales. I was doing the marketing. I was doing everything. I had people coming up on site to me, we're looking for the boss. I went, you're looking at like, it's me. Don't be fooled by me covered in cement dust. It is me. So systems, there was no systems in this business, and businesses run on systems, don't they? Even like if you have the smallest like 3-house buy-to-let portfolio, like you still need systems to run your business. So there were people to pay. So I figure out payroll, wages, materials needed to be ordered. So I had to figure out some kind of purchase order system. And thankfully we have access to loads of great tech for free these days. So you can use things like Google Forms to create like a purchase order system that I can then send out to all my contractors so that they can actually request from me a purchase order number. And all of this is, completely doable for free using Google Forms. So just finding nifty ways to use tech to really help me run that business successfully, and also as the only employee, like the only full-time employee of the business, I had to find ways to free me up to do other things. Importance of a pipeline. I had no idea how long a deal took to get over the line. So where I was, I came to the end of, for example, my first development, and I was like, okay, I've got 6 months to go. Suppose I better look for a new development site. Not realizing that it would take 12 to 18 to 24 months or more to actually just go through the legal process to be able to step foot on that development site. So I'm currently working on now development sites for 5 years into the future. I won't step foot on those sites for 5 years. I won't get any profit off those sites for one I'm working on right now. I probably won't have any profit on it for 10 years. Because it's so far into the future and it's such a big development, that by the time I've actually got it through legals, got it through planning, and built it and sold it, we're looking at almost 10 years into the future. And that is how long the pipeline could run for house building. So the site that I'm due to start work on next month, which is for 29 houses, I first looked at over 2 years ago. First stepped foot, looked on that site, offered on it, and started the legal process over 2 years ago. And that's how long it's taken. It's going to take me 2 to 3 years to build out that site. So you're looking at a 5-year span just to get your money back on a development site. It's not fast money. It's not quick at all. And you really need to plan into the future if you want to keep like continuity on a house building or property development business. Oh, I'm looking for the man in charge. I used to get this one a lot, looking for the man in charge. So there's no getting around it. Construction is full of sexism. And you need a good sense of humor to deal with it, I found. So, you get the wolf whistling, you get what are you doing here, love? Are you the cleaner? I still get mistaken for the cleaner. Got mistaken for the cleaner last week when I went to do a site visit. You don't see many women house builders. There aren't any. So at the last count in the UK, there were 7 female house builders. And I met them. I met them all in Parliament. They called us all in and said, how can we get more female house builders in the UK? Because there aren't any, and we need more houses built. So yeah, it's a big problem getting girls into house building from school. And it's definitely, I get it, because it's something that I never would have wanted to do. If I got offered that at school, it's not something that I would have ever chosen. But here's why, right? Because if you can't be what you can't see, and there are hardly any women house builders in the UK. So just 1% of site operatives in the UK are women. We're paid less, 45% less. Sexist attitudes. And it's down to, for example, hand tools, right? So you think of basic hand tools that you might, or men might use. Women's hands are smaller. They can't use the same tools. And if the tools aren't made for women's hands, how can they possibly do the job and do it safely? They can't. So there's a lot of things to get over to be able to level the playing field for women to be able to take roles in construction. And because women are a minority, they're also obviously experiencing harassment, sexual discrimination, all these sort of things. Now, I have an amazing team working for me. They're brilliant. They would never dare harass, discriminate, or anything against me anymore. But you know what? Contractors that come in that don't know who I am definitely still do that. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And I work with now, I'm part of a mentoring program for young female wannabe house builders. So I'm helping now step them through the process. Some of the stories are really horrific as well about young women being on construction sites. So it's something that I'm definitely looking to help change within the UK. Guys, this is my development. This is my first development of 29 houses. It's a mix of detached and semi-detached, 2-storey and also a few bungalows as well. It's in Shropshire in the West Midlands. So we're about an hour north of Birmingham, hour south of Manchester, that kind of right in smack bang in the middle of the country. Not far from the border of Wales, actually. I only take on development projects that are within 30 minutes of my front door. And I do that because 1, it makes my life easier. 2, it de-risks because I know for sure what the sales price of those properties are going to be. I know what they're worth. I know I've got a team that live locally that are going to be able to drop on those projects for me. So I've built a loyal team because they like local work. They don't want to travel. So they're going to stick with me because the projects are local. And that works really well for me. And people find that unusual when I speak to like land buying agents, property sourcers. They're like, yeah, we've got this amazing project, down in London or up in, Leeds. And I'm like, nah, I would rather make less money and keep it within that 30-minute radius of where I live, because it will make my life much easier. And that's worth a few extra percentage points of ROI. So that's my strategy. I stick to the West Midlands and I stick to the area I know. I'm going to share the figures with you. I've rounded slightly up or down just to keep the figures whole. Now the land was about 1 million. So that was the bank finance, that was the bank loan to buy the land. And then I had to borrow an additional 500,000 to get it started, to get it building. The build costs in total across the whole site were 4.5 million. It would cost more than that now, thanks to building regs. And all the additional sort of eco-friendly things that we have to put into houses now. So although 4.5 million seems a lot, now it would be like, take that seems pretty reasonable. Now the project was phased with properties being sold off plan. So as properties were sold and built, they were able to then fund the next phase, and then part of the bank finance paid off through each phase. So the GDV of the project was 7.7, and that left a profit of 2.2. Now, the profit on that is pretty decent and chunky, isn't it? And you might think, oh, Charlotte, maybe you could just retire now, yeah? But of course, no. I always, guys, when I see property developers driving around in Lamborghinis, I'm like, how are you doing that? Because that money is not yours to keep. That money's going, first of all, 25% to the taxman. Next, it's going into the ground of your next project. So I've never sat there with that money in the bank. It's always tax bill, it's working capital, or it's in the ground of the next project. So I always, when I get a lot of people coming to me going, I want to be a house builder, I want to be a property developer, like it's the way to make loads of money. I'm like, yeah, it is, but you need money to do it. Like you need big chunky capital to go in, and it can take you years. It will take you years before you get it out. And if you want continuity with your property development business, you've got to be prepared to put that money straight back in the ground again, straight back in the ground again. You know, it's going to be very rare that you're sitting there for 6 months with anything left like that in your bank account. And that's the nature of the beast.
Charlotte, someone's just asked a really good question there. How did you actually go about getting the bank loan?
I took on the debt for this specific project. This is my first project. I took on the debt after my dad and my brother died. So I had the choice. Do I want to take on the debt or hand over the keys to the house? So yeah, I chose to put that on. If I was doing it again now, there's lots of different development finance offerings out there, right? There's more development finance than what there are development projects. The problem is when you're first starting out is those interest rates are going to be higher for you because you're unproven. So if you have got experience in other property, you know, maybe you've done renovations, maybe you're a buy-to-let landlord, any experience that you've got, like really big that up because that's going to help you get a better rate on your development finance. For me personally, I don't like, other people work with private investors. That's not for me. I don't like that. I prefer to owe money to institutions than I do to individuals. So I continue to use bank finance. Whenever I look at a new project, I'll go to maybe a few different financing houses and I'll say, like, this is the project I want to do. This is how much I want to borrow. What can you offer me? And then I'll make my decision from there. So the second development I did is this one. It was an old farmyard. I don't do off-market deals. These deals have come from Rightmove. So you don't need to, there's no like underhand sort of like behind closed doors deals going on here. These are things off Rightmove. The first one was, and this one is as well. This was an old farmyard site, and actually nobody else wanted it. It'd been on the market for a while, and it'd been on the market so long that they'd pulled it off the market. And when I spoke to a land agent, I was like, "Listen, I'm looking for my next project." He was like, he said, "You know, I might have something. They've just pulled it off the market because it hasn't sold, but do you want to look at it?" So yeah, so this was an on-market deal. And I'm going to share it was for 3. It had full planning permit. Here's something else I don't do. I don't do like I don't take punts with things. I don't buy things that haven't got planning. I don't go for planning uplift. I make my life as easy as possible. I buy land that already has planning permission, at least outline planning permission on it, ready to go. I want to move straight onto that site. I want to build the houses, and I want to either keep them and rent them, or I'm gonna sell them. I'm not a land sourcer. I'd rather buy from a land sourcer. Yes, in an ideal world, I'd have someone working for me doing the land sourcing and I'd have a full team, but I don't. I'm still operating as pretty much a one-woman band. And so I prefer to take projects where I can my uplift is basically me building those houses. I also don't use private contracting companies to build. I am the developer, I'm the principal contractor. So I do it all in-house, if you like. I employ the individual bricklayers, tilers, painters, carpenters as subcontractors rather than contracting out to one building contractor who will put a 15% margin on it. That 15% margin is mine, I keep it, and I employ the separate trades. But that's another way that I can competitive with my offers for land, because if I know that I am going to do the contracting work myself, that allows me to be competitive with the offers that I make. Because a lot of developers are just the middleman, they're just the businessman. They're going to go, I'll buy that land, I'll pay Bill over there to do the whole development project, I'm completely hands off. But Bill's going to want his 15 to 20% out of that. So you've got to offer 15 to 20% below actually what I can offer for that piece of land. So do you see, I've got a competitive advantage for being able to pick up development sites in areas that I want. Okay, so 3 plots. And I live in Shropshire. So like if you're joining from London, you'll be like, oh my God, these houses are so cheap. But believe it or not, where I live, like these houses are super expensive. Like these are at the top end of the sort of pricing spectrum where I live. These are luxury houses. Okay, so for sort of 600, 750, 695, they're the prices. Now these houses are actually on the market right now. They just went on the market this month. I fully finished them. And then you can see like, I know guys what you're interested in. You're going to be interested in the potential pre-tax profit, which on those 3 plots is just over £640,000. They're the basic figures. But what I want to show you as well is how I can make extra money on this site. So here's the site I bought, and I thought, oh, what is this bit at the back here? And so what I did was I put in an additional planning application for 2 more houses here. So guys, if I get that planning on that bit of land at the back for 2 additional houses, look how much it increases my profit by almost £1 million. And that's what I look for in any site that I buy, is how can I get extra, uplift, or increase the value of that development that I'm doing. And I do that by either making very basic houses more luxury houses, or can I rejig the site? Can I get additional properties on there? What can I do to stretch the value of the development? Obviously you can ask me any questions about this at the end, but I'll just give you a second to just have a look at those figures. So planning application has gone in, got rejected once, twice, got rejected twice. The reason it was rejected is because we've overrun the numbers for this area before the new local plan comes in. The local plan's been delayed by 2 years. As soon as the new local plan comes in, the numbers reset back to 0, and I'll be able to put the planning application back in for the additional units. So it's just a waiting game on that one. So that one is the farmyard. Now, as well, I mentioned that I'm a landlord. So when I first took over my dad and my brother's business, I wasn't sure it was going to work out, and everybody sort of told me, guys, Charlotte, it's probably not going to work out. Like, you don't know what you're doing, you know nothing about this. And so I thought, yeah, they might be right. So what I did was I had 50 grand in savings, and I thought, okay, I'm learning about all these property strategies. I'm learning how to do property investment and house building and things. And I was going, what I can't understand is, see this house at the bottom left here? This is a 3-bed semi. And I can sell it on the open market for 225 grand. That's the value of it. But you see this house above it? It's a 3-bed semi, and I can buy it for 75 grand. And do you know the difference in rent? These houses are about 10 miles away from each other. Do you know the difference in rent on these 2 houses is £50? So this house I rent out for 750, and this house I rent out for £800. And I thought, how is it possible that I can buy a house for £75,000, and that is less than the cost of the bricks and mortar and labour to build it. So my business brain's going now, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna create a property portfolio out of these houses that no one else seems to want in this area, but yet tenants want to live in them, but they seem to be underpriced, undervalued. So that's what I did. So I used my 50 grand and I split it as thinly as possible to start doing BRRR. So I was putting down the minimum deposit on these houses that I could. I was using credit cards because I got a pretty big credit limit. I can get about 50 grand on credit cards. So I was doing a bit naughty, not supposed to be doing it. I know that, don't do it anymore. But I was doing the refurbs on a credit card. So I was putting deposit down for the houses. I was using bridging loans. I was using buy-to-let mortgages, buying these houses, uplifting them, refinancing them, paying off the credit card and doing it again and again. But I was managing to do 2 or 3 at a time. So what happened was definitely within less than a year, by 10 months, I'd accumulated 10 properties. Hadn't refinanced them all at that point, but I'd had the keys for 10 properties at that point. I just went really hard. That was in 2020 to 2021. I just went all in. I was like, I'm going to create a property portfolio that can cash flow me the equivalent of my marketing salary that I earned before I went into property. So don't forget, I wasn't earning any money from the development business at this point because it didn't have any money to pay me. So I thought, I need a property portfolio that can pay me. So that's what I did. So I created a property portfolio. At about 50 grand, I stretched it to a portfolio that's now worth 1.5 million. Obviously, I've got buy-to-let mortgages on all those, so I'm not saying I own them outright, but I own those assets on buy-to-let mortgages that cover my marketing salary as I had it at the time. Now, luckily, things in the development business worked out in the house building business and things went very well for me. Might not have gone that way, but it did. People talk about their why, don't they? About why they do property development and property investment. And for me, it's about being independent, having freedom, being able to generate my own income, not being reliant on anyone else, and also carrying on the legacy that my dad and my brother started. So I get great satisfaction from being able to carry that on for them, but also have built up my own property business on the side of that as well, from what I've learned just from taking over their business. Top left is me lying in a hospital bed after I'd slipped 2 discs in my back. I was out of work for 3 months when I was working in marketing and I earned no money. And that is a reminder to me of how that passive property income, how important it is, because we don't know what's going to happen in life. So I always encourage all women to have their own independent, passive property income by creating their own property portfolio. What's in the future? Okay, so I have got 3 new development sites that I am working on right now, about to sign contracts for next week for the next one. The others are in legals and planning. So that would give me 54 new build houses to build over the next 3 years. I've also got a target for 25% of those houses to keep as rentals. I intend to continue to be a spokesperson for SME developers and house builders. But most important is having a really good work-life balance. So right now I'm in New York City with my mum and my sister on a holiday, but I'm working. I'm here talking to you, and I'm here, talking to my assistant, and I'm in communication with my construction team back in the UK. But I have that balance where I can come away now and I can leave it, and I've been able to replace myself and all the roles that I did in that construction business and be able to step away from it and leave it and know that it's in good hands. My advice to you guys, It sounds a bit corny, doesn't it? But unless you think that you can do it, you won't do it. Like, you have to almost, what was it Churchill said? Always more audacity. You almost have to have like blind audacity that you think you can do something and just absolutely blag it and fake it till you make it. That is the way that I worked in my mindset. I was like, I just need to walk into this room full of planners and architects, and I need to pretend that I know what I'm talking about. And eventually I'll catch up with them and I will know what's going on. But sometimes you've just got to fake it till you make it. At the same time, be working on your knowledge. So behind closed doors, I'm reading, I'm listening to podcasts. Listen to 3 podcasts every day still. I listen to them on like a ×2 speed so that I can get more in. And I built my network as well. So during COVID, of course, we couldn't go out, we couldn't meet anyone. But we can now. We can go out, we can meet people, talk to people, learn from people. I've got so many people in property that I'm now friends with that are all different strategies, and we all learn from each other. And even just coming on, you know, online events like this is how I learnt. And so I love to like come on these and give it back. And, you know, I'm sure there's people on here right now who know much more than I do, who I would love to connect with and share knowledge. And that's how I think, you know, you build your network and you continue like improving yourself, and then its very nature, you improve your business that way too. Vanessa, give me a thumbs up. Are we near time? I've totally lost track. Do you want to go to questions now, or yeah?
Yeah, if you've nearly finished, Charlotte, we're literally bang on.
Yeah, I think that's a good place. I think that's a good place to leave it.
Okay.
Yeah,
that would be great,
go
because
for it.
There's quite a few questions.
Sorry.
No,
I was like,
good,
yeah, no, I'll just talk for 20 minutes, like 40 minutes.
I told you, because you have so much to share with everybody. Just before we go into the Q&A, we have about 10 minutes left to tonight. Charlotte has kindly offered to drop a couple of freebies for us in terms of her knowledge from her head to paper. So Charlotte, if you just want to quickly let us know about the links that we're going to drop in the chat now for anyone who's logged in tonight.
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 different freebies for you tonight. One is if you are a beginner and you're looking at building a property portfolio for yourself, or you're looking at how to create your 10 properties in 10 months using the same sort of strategies I did, there's a Freedom Through Property guide. It's 52 pages, and it's literally, it will take you through what I did to create that property portfolio. The second one is if you're more advanced, maybe you've already got your property portfolio and you want to be a house builder, you want to be a property developer, and it's me distilling how to be a property developer into layman's terms. And I sort of did that for myself, but I thought, you know what, that would actually help other people as well. So yeah, there's those 2 different levels of downloads that you can give away.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. And if you're like me and you love to talk and you like to sort of put your questions out there, me and Charlotte are going to put together a focused one-to-one group session for the first 5 people to log on to a link that we're going to chat. You'll have access to a private one-to-one meeting with myself and Charlotte, where Charlotte will be there to share her knowledge, me the same, on landlord, tenant, implementation, rents, values, anything like that. So we can only open that up to 5 people, so that way we can talk to you guys for 30-40 minutes, and you can talk on a one-to-one level over a Zoom session. So that link will go out in the chat. So the first 5 people to log in for that, completely free. Charlotte's kindly offered her time again, and I will be there as well, and we will be there to kind of take you through any property concerns, questions, or inquiries that you have. So please take a look at the chat box for those. And just so that before we finish up, I want to try and get to at least a handful of questions really quickly. So we might have to do a bit of speed fire with our questions and answers, because I want to try and help as many people as possible, because people have been listening, they've been buzzing, but there's lots of questions. People want to know some of the nitty-gritty, Charlotte. So let's try and shoot through as many of these as we can. So Lisa says, if you have 0 savings, but you want to get started on buy-to-lets, how can you do that?
Look, you can do it, but you're making life very difficult for yourself. What I would do first is find a way to generate money that you can save. For me, you need like, and if you love property and you want to be in property and you want to learn more about property so that you'll be better at doing buy-to-lets, maybe you need to start doing something like deal sourcing where you're finding properties for other property investors. But you're getting paid to analyze deals so that when you're finding these deals and you're generating these cash, you can actually steal these deals for yourself. That's what I would do.
That's a really good one. Yeah, deal sourcing, because then you'll pick up a lot of experience along your journey for yourself. Another question here from Rima. Rima says, Charlotte, you are so inspiring. Do you use agents to manage your rental properties, or do you self-manage, please?
I am such a mug. I self-manage. I still self-manage. I can't get out of that mindset of like trying to save every penny and trying to like, I'm still at that stage where I'm like, oh, 10%. I'm like, I could keep that for myself. And I've got systems in place now where actually it works really well for me to self-manage still, but I won't be able to do it that forever.
We'll be here. Well, maybe not quite VA because we're not in Shropshire, but the equivalent. Question from Pam. She says, how could I go from one property to a successful house builder?
Okay, well, goodness knows we need more house builders in the UK. The demand is there, right? And the biggest blockers at the moment, and I'm just totally like surmising your situation, but is usually finding deals and getting the finance. So I don't know your financial situation, but let's assume you've got zero money. You need an investor. How are you going to find an investor? You need to start going to property networking events, find people that have got money but don't want to do any work. So you need to get some experience so that you have the value to that investor. I know lots of people that do this. They are the hands-on people. They're the people that find the deals, and they have an investor in the background that's investing in them to do these properties up. But they're not going to invest in you without some experience, whether that's you giving your time for free to another property developer or house builder, or whether that's you taking a construction management course, or whatever it is finding that way to create value to an investor.
Two more questions and then we'll round up so we can be done by sort of 8:35. Sarah wants to know, what makes you go forward with building out the site instead of selling the site with planning and taking the profit from the uplift? Really good question, that is.
Again, I'm such a mug. I love the stress of construction. I get so much pleasure of actually creating something physical. Also, I make more money doing it that way as well. I do think I make more money doing it that way. But I know people who are just finding sites, getting the planning uplift and selling them on, and like, good for them. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the process.
And last question is, when are you classed as a house builder? I.e., how many properties do you have to build to be officially a house builder?
I mean, I guess just more than one, right? Just one and sell it. Then you're a house builder, right? You know, even if you've done your own self-build, you've built a house, you're a house builder. It's all about marketing. It's about how you present yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Charlotte. I think we have to round it up there. It's 8:33. Thank you for joining. Thank you for staying with us, Charlotte. You've been amazing. Thank you for sharing your personal story, your professional story. I'm sure, and I know it's inspired a lot of people. I certainly was taking notes and listening really carefully. Like I said, me and Charlotte are opening up a spot for 5. So if you haven't quickly tried to jump on the link, please do that and take advantage of the information that Charlotte is giving away through the links that we've also put in the chat, whether you're starting or you're sort of more sort of experienced on your journey. But that is it for us tonight from VA and from Charlotte Edwards, our expert. Thank you for joining, and please keep following us. We're on social media, we're on Instagram. We're doing a lot more now from VA point of view on TikTok, where we share real-time landlord, investor, tenant dramas. We keep it really real on TikTok. So if you have a TikTok account, please follow us on TikTok, because you'll see some real life things that we don't share in other mediums, because TikTok we have a bit more fun with, but you can actually learn from the experiences that we share from a day-to-day, what it's like to be in property. Charlotte, thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Have fun in New York, and good night, everybody.